I stood in the marble hallway of Preston Associates, the most prestigious law firm in downtown Chicago, watching my family file into the conference room for Dad's will reading. My sister Elizabeth's Louboutins clicked against the floor, my brother James's Italian leather shoes whispered expensively, and Mom's pearls caught the light as she dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. None of them spared me a glance. Mr. Preston himself, Dad's lawyer for 30 years, approached the door, his silver hair perfectly coiffed, his suit probably worth more than most people's cars. "I'm sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all, "but this reading is for family only." "I am family," I said quietly. "Alexandra Bennett, the youngest daughter." He consulted his list. "I have specific instructions. Only immediate family members involved in the business interests are to attend." Elizabeth turned in the doorway, her perfect red lips curving in a smirk. "Oh, Alex, did you really think Dad would include you, after you abandoned the family business to play with your little investment company?" The door closed in my face with a soft, expensive click. I smiled, pulling out my phone and sending a quick text to my CFO, "Start the process." They had no idea that every property they thought they owned, from the flagship department store downtown to their precious McMansions in the suburbs, had been quietly purchased through my little investment company over the past 5 years. Bennett Capital wasn't just successful, it was a billion-dollar real estate empire, and I'd used it to buy every mortgage, every loan, every piece of property the family thought was theirs. Dad never knew. He was too busy grooming Elizabeth and James for succession, too focused on the failing retail empire he'd built, to notice his youngest had become his secret landlord. I checked my watch. The will reading would take about an hour, then the real show would begin. My phone buzzed, a message from Thomas, my head of legal. "Documents ready. Ownership transfer notification scheduled to send in 55 minutes. Perfect timing." I settled into one of the hallway's leather chairs, opened my laptop, and prepared to wait. Through the heavy door, I could hear muffled voices, the familiar cadence of Mr. Preston's formal tone, occasional exclamations from my siblings. A young associate hurried past, then did a double take. "Miss Bennett? Alexandra Bennett of Bennett Capital?" I nodded. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Would you like to use an office to wait? The conference room is occupied, but dash." "I know," I smiled, "that's my family in there, excluding me from my father's will reading." His eyes widened. "But your company, owns the building they're sitting in?" "Yes, along with every other property they think belongs to them." He looked like he wanted to say more, but professional discretion won out. He hurried away, probably to share this juicy bit of gossip with his colleagues. I didn't mind. In about 40 minutes, it wouldn't be gossip anymore. I used the time to review the numbers one last time. Bennett department stores had been failing for years, crushed by online competition and changing consumer habits. Dad had refused to adapt, sticking to his outdated business model while taking out more and more loans to stay afloat. Loans that I'd quietly bought through various subsidiaries. The flagship store alone was mortgaged for $12 million, the warehouse properties another $8 million, their personal residences, Elizabeth's lakefront mansion, James's sprawling estate, Mom's penthouse added up to nearly $15 million more. All owned, through a complex web of holding companies, by me. They'd find out soon enough, but first, they had to finish dividing up assets that hadn't really belonged to Dad in years. Right on schedule, the conference room door opened. Elizabeth emerged first, practically glowing with satisfaction. James followed, already on his phone, probably sharing the good news. Mom came last, still dabbing at her eyes. "Oh," Elizabeth said, noticing me. "Still here? I thought you'd have gotten the message by now." "I got several messages," I replied, standing. "Would you all mind joining me in the larger conference room? There's something we need to discuss." "We have nothing to discuss." James didn't look up from his phone. The will was quite clear. "Yes," I agreed, "but property ownership is about to become much clearer." Something in my tone made Mom look up. "Alexandra, what are you talking about?" "Follow me and find out." Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was the unfamiliar confidence in my voice, but they followed me to the larger conference room. Thomas was waiting, documents arrayed precisely on the polished table. "Everyone, please sit." I gestured to the chairs. "Thomas, begin the notifications." "Yes, Miss Bennett." Phones began buzzing simultaneously, Elizabeth's, James's, Mom's, even Mr. Preston's, who had joined us, looking confused. "What is this?" Elizabeth demanded, staring at her screen. "Ownership transfer notifications," I said calmly. Technically, they're just confirming what's been true for years. Every property you think you inherited today, I own them. All of them. The silence was absolute. That's impossible, James finally sputtered. The flagship store was mortgaged to Phoenix Holdings, a subsidiary of Bennett Capital, 3 years ago. My house Elizabeth's voice cracked. Purchased through Lakefront Properties LLC, another Bennett Capital company, when you defaulted on the original mortgage last year. Mom's face had gone pale. The penthouse? That one I bought directly, I said gently, when Dad refinanced it to cover the store's Christmas inventory. Mr. Preston was frantically flipping through papers. This can't be legal. I assure you it is. Thomas handed him a thick folder. Every transaction was properly documented and filed. Your firm handled several of them, though the connection to Ms. Bennett was carefully obscured. Elizabeth stood so fast her chair tipped over. You snake, you've been plotting this all along. No, I corrected. I've been building a successful company while you all ran Dad's business into the ground. The fact that I was able to buy up your debts was just opportunity meeting preparation. We'll fight this, James declared. We'll sue Dash. With what money? I asked quietly. The stores are failing. The properties are mortgaged to me. Your personal assets are leveraged to the hilt. Face it, the only thing keeping this family afloat has been my little investment company all along. Mom's hands were shaking. Why? Why would you do this to your own family? Do this to you? I laughed softly. I've been saving you. Every time Dad needed a mysterious new investor. Every time the bank mysteriously extended a loan. Every time a mortgage miraculously got approved, that was me. I've been propping up this family for years while you all treated me like a failure. But the will. Elizabeth's voice was small. Go ahead. I gestured to the papers they'd been so excited about moments ago. Read it again. See how much those properties are worth now that you know who really owns them. Mr. Preston cleared his throat. Ms. Bennett is correct. Without the real estate holdings, the estate's value is primarily in the retail business itself, which according to these figures, is worth less than zero. I finished. The only thing keeping Bennett department stores operating has been my willingness to extend credit and delay calling in the loans. You wouldn't, James whispered. You couldn't just destroy everything Dad built. No, I agreed. I won't. But things are going to change. I pulled out another folder, my own documents this time. Option 1, you all stay on as managers of your respective properties, but with actual oversight and accountability. No more treating the stores like personal piggy banks, no more vanity renovations, no more hiding losses. And option 2? Mom asked faintly. I sell everything. The stores, the properties, all of it. You'll have 30 days to vacate. Elizabeth sank back into her righted chair. You'd throw your own mother out of her home? The same mother who just excluded me from Dad's will reading? Who spent years dismissing my success because it didn't fit her definition of achievement? I met her eyes. Yes, I would. But I'm offering you a chance to keep your lifestyles, you just have to earn them now. By working for you? James spat. By working with me, I corrected. By finally admitting that your little sister might actually know something about business. Thomas began distributing contracts. These documents outline the new management structure. You'll each retain your homes and positions, but with quarterly performance reviews and strict oversight of expenses. And if we refuse? Elizabeth's voice was ice. Then I begin selling properties next week. I already have interested buyers for the flagship store location. Tech companies love those old architectural details. Mom was reading the contract, her hand still shaking slightly. These terms, they're actually quite generous. Of course they are, I said softly. You're still my family. I don't want to destroy you. I just want you to respect what I built. James was staring at his phone, scrolling through property records. How did we not know? How did you keep this hidden? The same way I've done everything carefully, quietly, and without expecting any of you to notice or approve. Mr. Preston had finished reviewing the documents. These are remarkably thorough. And entirely legal. I learned from watching Dad's mistakes, I said. Everything documented, everything properly filed. No shortcuts, no handshake deals, no family favors. Elizabeth looked up from her contract. The management bonuses, they're higher than what we were making. Because I expect actual management now. Real work, real results. Not just showing up to take credit and collect checks. And the stores? Mom asked. What are your plans? I pulled out another folder, the part I'd actually been excited to share before they excluded me from the will reading. Complete modernization. Online integration, experiential retail spaces, boutique pop-ups. Everything Dad refused to consider. I spread out the plans. We could make Bennett department stores relevant again, but only if you're all willing to actually work for it. They gathered around the drawings and projections, professional interest slowly overcoming personal shock. This could actually work, James admitted grudgingly. Of course it could, I replied. I've spent years developing these plans while you were all dismissing me as a failure. We never said Mom started. Yes, you did. Every time you excluded me from family business discussions. Every time you dismissed my suggestions. Every time you treated my success as somehow less valuable than the failing family business. They had the grace to look ashamed. So, I gathered the contracts. Decision time. Sign and start proving yourselves, or pack and start house hunting. Your choice. Elizabeth picked up a pen first, surprising me slightly. She'd always been the most dismissive of my achievements. You beat us, she said quietly. Fair and square, completely legally, while we were too arrogant to even notice. That deserves respect. James signed next, then Mom. Mr. Preston notarized everything, still looking slightly shell-shocked at the power shift he'd just witnessed. What happens now? Mom asked, handling her signed contract like it might bite. Now? Now we start turning this company around. For real this time. I checked my watch. Management meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late, I'm not as forgiving of tardiness as Dad was. They filed out slowly, decades of superior attitudes crumbling in the face of new reality. Mom lingered last. Your father, she said softly. He never knew? He never asked, I replied. None of you did. She nodded slowly. He would be proud. Not of us, but of you. Of what you've built. Maybe, I gathered my things. But I stopped needing his pride a long time ago. That evening, I sat in my office overlooking the city, looking at the familiar Chicago skyline. The flagship store's distinctive architecture stood out against the modern glass towers, beautiful, historic, but in desperate need of updating. Like my family's attitudes. My phone buzzed with texts. Elizabeth, reviewed the modernization plans. Have some ideas to discuss tomorrow. James, found 3 potential partners for the online platform. Mom, dinner soon? Just us? I'd like to hear about how you built all this. I smiled slightly. Amazing what a little leverage could do for family dynamics. Thomas knocked on my door. First quarter projections are ready. And the team has some concerns about the holiday strategy. Schedule a meeting, I replied. With everyone. Time to show them how real business decisions are made. They won't like having their authority questioned. They'll like bankruptcy even less. I turned from the window. Besides, they're not in charge anymore. They just need time to accept that. The next morning, I arrived at the flagship store early, walking the quiet aisles before opening. So much history here, so much potential, so much need for change. Elizabeth was already in the conference room, spreadsheets spread across the table. I was wrong, she said without looking up. About your little investment company. About you. I know. These plans. She gestured at the modernization documents. They're brilliant. We should have listened years ago. Yes, I agreed. You should have. James arrived next, then Mom, both armed with notes and ideas. Actually prepared, actually engaged, actually ready to work. Before we start, I said as they settled in, let's be clear about something. This isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity. To save the family business, to build something better, to finally work together as equals. As equals? James raised an eyebrow. You own everything. I own the properties, I corrected. But the Bennett name, the legacy, that belongs to all of us. If we're willing to earn it. Mom smiled slightly. When did my youngest get so wise? Around the same time she was secretly becoming our landlord, Elizabeth said dryly. We spent the next 4 hours discussing real strategies, real changes, real plans for the future. They actually listened to my ideas, actually considered my experience, actually treated me like someone who knew what she was doing. Amazing what property ownership could do for one's credibility. That evening, as I was leaving, I found Mom waiting by my car. I ordered dinner, she said hesitantly. To your office. If you're free. I considered declining, but something in her expression stopped me. Chinese? I asked. From Golden Palace? She smiled. Your favorite, I remembered. Over containers of Kung Pao chicken and hot and sour soup, she finally asked the question I'd been expecting. How did we not see it? All these years, all your success. You saw what you expected to see, I said simply, the rebellious daughter who rejected the family business, who had to be doing something small and insignificant because she wasn't doing what you wanted. We were fools. Yes, I agreed, but teachable ones, apparently. She reached across the desk, squeezing my hand. Teach us then, show us how to be better. I squeezed back briefly. That's what I've been trying to do all along. You're just finally ready to learn. 6 months later, the flagship store reopened after extensive renovations. Modern technology blended seamlessly with historic architecture. Online orders could be picked up in beautifully designed lounges. Local artists' works hung in carefully curated spaces. Elizabeth had thrown herself into the experiential retail concept, creating spaces that actually drew younger customers. James had built a robust online presence that complemented rather than competed with the physical stores. Mom had become our best brand ambassador, sharing stories of the store's history while embracing its future. Standing in the restored grand entrance, watching customers actually shopping instead of just browsing, I felt a moment of pride, not in the property values or the profit margins, but in the family legacy we were finally building together. Quite a change, Elizabeth said, joining me. The store, or us? Both. She smiled a real smile, not her old superior smirk, though I'm still not over you secretly buying everything out from under us. Consider it a very expensive lesson in humility. Consider it learned. She linked her arm through mine. Little sister. Up in Dad's old office, my office now, his portrait still hung on the wall, but it wasn't alone anymore. Next to it hung the first dollar earned after the reopening, and beside that, a framed copy of the property deed that had started it all. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply having the patience to wait until everyone else realizes what you've known all along. That success doesn't always look the way people expect. That family isn't about control but cooperation. That sometimes the best way to save something is to be willing to change everything. And that sometimes, just sometimes, the best business decision is to buy your own family's property right out from under them. Just to teach them to pay attention. What do you think about Alexandra's story? Was she right to secretly buy her family's properties, or should she have been more direct about her success? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow for more stories about family, business, and the courage to succeed on your own terms.